Welcome to Three Films and a Podcast, the show where Destiny brought together three friends to enhance each other's cinematic journey by watching three new movies in a series of themed rounds. There is no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode, as all film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy!
So let's move into our awards ceremony. This was actually one of my favorite things we did last season. I've been looking forward to it for a while. We're going to go through, we've created some of our own sort of like Oscar style categories, just as a way to sort of recap again what we've been through and shout out some of our favorites and maybe least favorites. And I think we'll start it off. I don't want to start it off. Well, let's do it. Let's start it off with the big one, Best Picture. We're going opposite of Oscars here.
So then you can tune out after this one.
Yeah.
We're doing the big one first.
Well, I want to do this one first because it's a clean sweep.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this movie quite a bit. And all three of us chose Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Now, this movie didn't fit into a specific round. It was a little pod. It was our apology to Mike and Darren for messing up their actual episode they came on. And they wanted to talk about Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It's a movie that all three of us really wanted to see.
We needed to cover this movie.
And that's the truth of it too, is like this movie was probably the best thing that came out this year.
This is why we do the podcast, essentially.
Yeah. Like, we covered two new releases this year, essentially, and it was Spider-Man No Way Home and Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
And I think both of those, in the last calendar year have been two of the biggest releases. And I think that's kind of a testament to how much we loved this movie, and it makes sense that it, got our spot for Best Picture.
Yep.
Yeah, and especially I like this too because it really fit the theme of what we were trying to do last season, with respects to representation and making sure we're exposing ourselves to other points of view and other cultures and other whatever. For sure. And Everything Everywhere All at Once is a great example of that. You know what I mean? It was the entire cast minus the Queen Jamie Lee Curtis is Asian American, I don't know. It's just I'm just glad we did it.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that it came out when it did, and I'm glad to have seen it, and I'm glad that it's in our canon.
Indeed.
Yep. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. So what was your favorite episode or round this season, Matt?
I've got to say, so we were sitting, I still remember when Ben came up with this idea, we were sitting in, every once in a while, you're lucky enough to go see a movie together.
Yeah.
That isn't part of the podcast. And we went to go see The Last Duel, and Ben leaned over and was like, hey, we should do a round where we do second chance cinema, or we do a round of a movie that we like, or no, that we don't like, that everybody seems to like. And we'll call it second chance cinema. And we were just like, yeah, 100%.
And The Last Duel, actually, I do want to see again to see if I like it better than the first time. So it fits the criteria perfectly.
It's a great movie. Yeah.
Anyway, so we all liked the idea. I liked this round because we, as a movie club, we try to steer people to watch movies. And even in this round, we still want people to watch the movie and formulate their own opinion, which is essentially what we did. And, but it was fun to sort of take an opposite approach to almost justify or receive validation on why we didn't like things.
Yeah.
And in my case with The Greatest Showman, neither of you guys liked that movie either. So I felt validated.
Not a fan.
Yeah.
Ben unfortunately did not get any validation.
No, I was on an island for sure. Yeah, without a doubt. I was behind the bookcase, just like, you guys, this is a bad movie, you guys. Trying to put it in the dust. And you guys were like, no. Murph, this is a bad movie. Murph.
Yeah, Second Chance was a lot of fun. This movie or this podcast, we're always picking stuff that we really want to see, stuff that we've always wanted to see from years. It's been missing from our lives. Yeah. So it was cool to force ourselves to kind of branch out a little bit and just, sit through something. And, I didn't love Greatest Showman, but I was at least entertained,
It's got Hugh Jackman in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And a bearded lady.
And a bearded lady.
Mine, I went with The Lord of the Rings.
This makes me so happy.
That was one where I felt good about picking it because I knew I wanted to see them, but I was like, man, does this count? Because I think I've seen all these And I'm glad I did because I had only seen the first one. So I was really happy to rewatch it.
Me too.
Yeah, I kind of felt like even the first season, if you go back and listen to like, I'd say 1 out of every 3 episodes, Lord of the Rings came up and you guys were just like talking about it. I was like, cool. I know those words, whatever. I have no idea what the movie is, but sure. So I was really happy to finally watch that and just start putting it in the yearly rotation for sure. Extended editions. I'm now, a Samwise fan. So he's the ultimate wingman without a doubt. So
totally.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we got to watch those.
And we talked about this during those episodes, but I'm so excited to see if and how you attach to different characters as you go through, because I've attached to different characters in different parts of that story every single time. It's so much fun. And it makes my heart so happy that now we can finally share the Lord of the Rings.
Now we all have it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on a Wraith kick right now.
Just the Wraiths are dope.
Yeah.
It's dope. Part of my favorite, my elevator pitch was the Wraiths versus Arwen in the river. It'll forever be my favorite in theater experience. Yeah, they're good stuff. So I went with Kurosawa here. I have thought about Yojimbo so much since we saw it. I was really surprised because I had expected to love Seven Samurai, and I did. It was great, but I think like the hype behind it in my personal life, so many people had recommended it to me.
Yeah,
the expectation was super high, and it certainly met it, but it only met it. You know what I mean? And with Yojimbo, it smashed through. I can see that. I could see why you might think Seven Samurai or other Kurosawa movies are better, but I have thought about Yojimbo and Throne of Blood so much since we saw it. There's a lot of really, really cool rounds. I definitely wanted to shout out the LGBTQ plus round.
Yeah,
I loved My Own Private Idaho, and I loved Call Me by Your Name, and The Handmaiden also. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is all 3 of those movies, I loved each and every one of them for different reasons. But when I'm being honest with myself, I've thought about Kurosawa and Yojimbo like weekly since we watched those movies.
Yeah, until we did Lord of the Rings, mine probably would have been Miyazaki. It was really just fun to visit those. Having only seen My Neighbor Totoro, like it was just like it was cool to finally see like Spirited Away, and I really enjoyed that one a lot. But Lord of the Rings definitely gets my vote.
Definitely. So this has become a running theme on our pod. It's one of our Clubhouse questions. It's one of our favorite rounds that we do. It's Matt's brainchild. So I'm going to let you introduce this category.
Okay, season 2's Unsung Gems. Ben, what's your unsung gem?
Well, in the context of what the question is, as far as like stuff maybe people haven't seen or doesn't get talked about enough that I really loved, my answer is The Handmaiden from our LGBTQ plus round. That was something that I was just like so excited to finally watch. Yeah, go listen to that episode. I think like it was just so fun to cover. The movie is so like, it covers so many genres. Like there's definitely like a sensual side to it, but there's also, it's just like a love triangle. There's kind of the thriller aspect to it. And it is like, I don't know, if we had done like a Rushmore most beautiful movies, this also might get it, because like the cinematography, there's like, speaking of scenes that we always think about, there's one where 2 people are talking to each other down this like grove of trees that's like just like covering them, and you like has a slight arch and stuff. I'm like, oh, it's just one of the most beautiful places, one of the most beautiful shots. So my pick is gonna be Handmaiden for my unsung gem of season 2.
That movie is like the antithesis to the movie I'd want to see again for the first time, because this movie does one of my favorite things that a movie can do, in that it introduces you to so much stuff that you never get payoff on, right? Like his weird dungeon and the octopus and like all these weird little things. Like there's so many directions this movie could have gone in, and there's so many interesting things that you could make an entire universe, like cinematic universe, out of just this guy's house and what goes on here. Yeah. And I love that we don't get any, like they'll just introduce a thing and it just kind of goes away. And I love that. It's just, it makes it feel, I don't know, just makes it feel really cool and interesting. And like you're in a world and you're not supposed to understand it. I think that's really cool. Yeah. So what I guess I'm trying to say is I'm excited for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th times that I watch The Handmaiden, as opposed to being excited for the first time again. So my answer to this actually kind of surprised even me. I did think The Handmaiden is a good pick, and I considered it, but I went with Beaches here, and Beaches might actually be an answer for another category we have coming up later, but I just really love this movie. Yeah. I had so much more fun with it than I was expecting. This was Angie's pick, right? I don't know. I was the only person that I knew that had seen it. I was it's when we were in Florida and we were staying with my partner Alex's, her family. And her mom had seen it. It's the only person that I've ever talked to besides like Angie that had seen Beaches. And Alex's mom, Cindy, she said, "Oh, it's great. You're going to love it." And she really liked it. But I don't know. I thought it was just a fun, cute little movie. Yeah. I don't know. Just like it was just way better than I was giving it credit for. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I expected it to just be like a girl movie. And it totally is. I think I even said, I told Angie, it was like, I was like, it's almost like girl friendship porn. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like when you're a kid with like, as a young boy getting together, I'd watch Ninja Turtles and Karate Kid and we would like fight and stuff. And I just pictured like my sister or whoever like watching Beaches and like,
you also picture you like,
I don't mean to be so like stereotypically, binary with how men and women view things, but even from like a male perspective, like you grow up and like your best friend, you think you're gonna like live next door growing up.
Yeah, we're gonna grow up, we're live next door. We're like our kids will be best friends, and that's obviously not the case. Yeah, and it seems like the love that Beaches has, it kind of like is that vision. Yeah, with how close they are, even though they're not like technically living next to each other, but like they're that close even still. Yeah. It's a really beautiful little story. Loved it. It really is. And like you said, that opening scene, I kid you not, when I said I think about Kurosawa, I sing Under the Boardwalk so much. It's just in my head playing. And it's always that version, Bette Midler singing Under the Boardwalk so at the Hollywood Bowl. Like and subscribe. Really good stuff. Beaches. Love it. Great pick. My pick would be Steel Magnolias. Nice. We'll be talking more about Steel Magnolias later. Was going back and forth. And it's similar to Beaches in that I feel like I actually didn't know anyone personally who had seen Steel Magnolias. But just throughout the years, through the grapevine, I knew it was beloved. Yeah. And I know it's a Broadway production as well. And so I just known about it. Didn't really know what it was about even. I just knew people loved it. But finally, we had the opportunity to check it out and was just like shocked at how much I enjoyed it. Yeah, so and also just like Weezer how much it killed me. Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to talk about it. I've got it coming up here later on. So I'm really excited to get into Steel Magnolias. Okay. What was the coolest movie we watched this season? So I'm going to have to go with, and this is tough for me. And if you followed along to our Lord of the Rings episodes, you'll know that we bounced around on which one's our favorite, which I think is it's a good problem to have. And I think everyone has it. Yeah. But the way that trilogy is set up, both in the book and in the movies, Fellowship of the Ring is just so freaking cool. Mm-hmm. Dude, we talked about it during the episode, but there's the sweeping shots of Gandalf riding the cart with his little hat bobbing. You know what I mean? I just I just want that on my wall. My girlfriend would never allow it, but it's just so cool and so fun. Yeah, it's a very cool movie. I mean, I had some this was hard for me because I just had so many that I wanted to throw in there. One of the first ones I thought of was we covered the new version of Candyman, which I thought was really cool. Yeah. Like I liked how they did that. The cinematography, again, like talking about shots that we'll never forget, that pull away from the apartment from like, the aerial shot was so cool. So I really enjoyed Candyman. I don't know. I still don't even know which one exactly to pick, but I think I'm going to go with, what I picked for Unsung Gem. I'm going to go with Speed Racer. For me, that's just like, it feels weird to say it, but it's just like, it's one of those things where it's cool. Like if someone likes that movie, I kind of know that we've got a similar taste, know, and that's like, it's that level of cool for me. Like, I know it's not the coolest movie, but for me, that's the criteria I'm going with here. It's just like, if someone else is into it, like, that's if someone else thinks it's cool, I think it's cool. So. That one for me has like, I've only seen it the once for this podcast, for that episode.
but it's one that like my memory, like it grows on me. I'm like, oh yeah, I did. Because when I watched it, I was like, yeah, it's good. Like, but I didn't have like quite the connection that you did, or like Palcher loves it too. But the more I think about it, like I remember, I just love John Goodman. Yeah. And the that race, or it basically any of the race scenes, but just like the aesthetic of it, the way it's shot, it is very cool. And like they could have missed the mark. Yeah. Easily, and they didn't. I thought it was a lot of fun.
And yours?
What are we doing? Coolest movie? Yo, Jimbo, man, I've talked about it quite a bit already. Shout out to Clint Eastwood and the Dollars trilogy. Those movies I thought were pretty cool. In the way that like I'm thinking of it, like what a cool character, you know what I mean? But Toshiro Mifune is probably the coolest fucking guy that's ever lived. I don't know, in my opinion, for sure. In the few movies that I've seen him in, and like I said, I thought about Yojimbo and Toshiro quite a bit since I saw that. So this one was the first one I put down on the sheet. It was the easiest one for me. It was like, that's awesome. Yojimbo, without even a doubt. What was the best music this year?
For me, it's one that we actually just covered, if you're listening to this chronologically, last week. The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Ennio Morricone's soundtrack, like it's just notorious. It is iconic. It is all those pejoratives. Like it is just like you know.
That's a Tyler word. I would have used it wrong though, but you killed it.
I may have used it wrong.
You would have used it right, and we would have assumed that you used it wrong.
Yeah, totally.
But I used it wrong. We're just assuming it's right. So yeah. But yeah, no, just that soundtrack is like, it's amazing. It's beautiful. It came to like define spaghetti Western specifically, but also just Westerns in general, that sound. I just think it's, one of the greatest things. And I just wanted to pick something different because honestly, your two picks this would be my top three without
totally.
a doubt.
I mean,
so when I saw what like you had put down, it's like, well, I want to do something different and talk about it. But these three, it's honestly my top three picks for
it's hard. Like all of these picks, we like have to talk about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, mine is the score of, the whole trilogy, but specifically the Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah. And anytime you hear that flute in the Shire, it's like, holy crap.
You're late.
A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
I don't know what else to say. It just makes me want to weep.
Totally.
I'm choking up on you on air.
It instantly transports you to that world and
makes you feel home.
It makes you feel home, and every time I watch that trilogy, every single time I feel so much excitement. The same moment that Sam does when they're the farthest they've ever been away from the Shire. I'm like, let's fucking Ethanism. Let's fucking go. Let's go to the prancing pony. I'm getting a pint. Let's do this shit. You know what I mean? It's and that music has so much to do with it. It fills your heart in a way that just feels really cool. Yeah. And I went with Rocky Horror Picture Show. To be honest, the first thing I thought of was the Dollars trilogy. Maybe just recency bias, but also it's just iconic in a way that I don't think can be topped by anything other than probably Rocky Horror.
Well, people know the time warp, but people know that score from Good, Bad, the Ugly without even knowing where it came from. Right. Yeah. It's just in everything.
Like we talked about. It's funny though, because I had the opposite thing. Like Rocky Horror is the first thing. And I went to fill it out and I was like, oh, he already has that. I was like, all right, I can do something so this is a solid pick though, I think, for all three.
And Halloween season's coming up. I'm really excited to revisit Rocky Horror. Yeah. I'm stoked. The first time I'd seen it all the way through was for this podcast. And there was a commercial recently that has the time warp on it. It's like a Verizon commercial. Oh, really? I don't know what it is.
Interesting.
But I was in the other room and Alex was watching something on TV and that guy was like, are you watching Rocky Horror? I was like, oh, fuck, they're selling me something. It's bullshit.
You had started to do the time warp, and you're like, oh shoot!
And I was very surprised that it wasn't actually Rocky Horror, which leads us into the next category: biggest surprise of the season for you guys.
Again, this was another one where Rocky Horror was the first thing I thought of, but then I got thinking about, like, I had no expectations for Rocky Horror and was blown away. I had, unfortunately, low expectations for Steel Magnolias. And I was like, I'm probably not going to like this. I feel like it felt like something I needed to check off.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's like, I need to see this. It's got a great cast. I don't know that I'm going to be like super into it, but let's watch it. I need to watch it. And it honestly just floored me, you know, like it's something I'm going to talk about later on as we go through our awards, but Sally Field, like the fact that like Julia Roberts is like the last person on the call sheet here is like, it's crazy. Like, and it's like her first real big feature film. And she does great, obviously, but like Olympia Dukakis, we have Dolly Parton, we have Shirley MacLaine. Like, I know I'm forgetting people, but like, it's just like, it is such, and Daryl Hannah, who's like homely Daryl Hannah, like whatever, you know, like it's such a good movie. The Weezer like dynamic with, I forget his name, but the husband, like they're all great. So this for me, I think they both reached the same. Like, I think Steel Magnolias and Rocky Horror are at the same level for me, but I went in expecting to not really dig Steel Magnolias. So that's what made it the biggest surprise for me this year.
Yeah. I shamelessly put the same thing, which, you know, happens in the Oscars, you know, people vote for the same thing.
Yeah.
Steel Magnolias was like a total shocker for me. I knew people loved the movie, but as we learned this season, sometimes people love movies that we hate, you know?
Yeah, it happens.
And so I didn't really have expectations, but whatever expectations I did have, they were low. And so, but checking this out, it was just like, it's a super great. I mean, it's a sad movie, but it's also like a very comfort movie.
Yeah,
totally.
And I'm going to talk about one of my favorite opening scenes of all time. This has got to be my favorite closing scene of all time.
Oh yeah.
You've got like a guy in a
bunny suit,
but he's riding a motorcycle.
And then that's the end shot. Yeah. Like, we just pan away on a fucking helicopter, just like, let's follow this motorcycle through the town. And then that's it. That's the end of the movie. It's like, what? It's so good. It's awesome. I love it.
I feel like my expectation met my experience perfectly. It was pretty cool. Yeah. I felt like I knew what I was going to get from Steel Magnolias, and I got that exactly, and I really enjoyed it.
That's awesome.
I mentioned Beaches earlier as my unsung gem. It was going to be my pick for biggest surprise, but I actually went sort of a different direction with this question, and I chose It's a Wonderful Life. And not because I was surprised that it was good, but I was surprised at the way it was good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that makes any sense, but I thought it was going to be good in the way, kind of like we were talking about earlier, like in my ignorance, I was like, it's going to be like kind of lame and like not like innovative or cool or fun, but I'll be able to respect it for what it was in the time that it came out.
Yeah.
And instead, it was timeless in a way that I wasn't prepared for.
You were expecting sort of what X-Men would be today. It's
Yeah.
like, this is a 90s.
Like, it was okay for back then.
Yeah, exactly.
I was expecting that exactly.
I had a similar experience when I saw Casablanca for the first time.
Okay. Yeah.
Because, you hear about this movie your whole life.
Yeah.
You hear that it's like every book about film you see, it's like one or two, you know, that people are ranking. And you're just like, okay, let's go see, you know, where, you know, all these cool things came from.
Right.
And you watch it and it's like, holy crap, this movie is just legitimately awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like,
by today's standards.
Yeah. You don't need to like put it in its place. You don't have, you know what I mean? You don't have to qualify it by the standard of its time.
Right.
It's like, I think that's why I was so surprised is I was like, it's going to be good, but I'll have to like categorize it. And it was like, it met the expectation in a way that I wasn't.
I mean, we like kind of renamed a segment because of it.
Totally.
I mean, Matt came up with like, what's in the soup? And then while you were gone, it got changed to like, what's in the stew? Because it's just this is like the Christmas movie. This is the template. This is like, if you're going to make something,
follow this recipe.
Yeah. It's like, what Christmas movie isn't pulling from something in It's a Wonderful Life?
And even just sort of like movies in general and like what a leading man is. You know, I know that we've had tons of leading men up until before Jimmy Stewart, but it was just like, it was just everything that makes a good movie is in this movie.
And oddly, I mean, for
For
its time, which is more appropriate now, it's like, it was just so honest about the humanity of it all.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Very true.
Totally. Yeah. Big shock to me. It's a Wonderful Life. Good stuff. What was your favorite little pod we did this year?
You guys have the same one. Do you guys want to talk about it? I mean, we've already covered it.
Yeah, it's the big picture winner. It's or the best picture winner. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Matt and I both. Yeah.
So take a shot, I guess.
Yeah. Right.
For me, I went with the MCU auction draft. I just played the Watcher in that one, where I was just kind of like, running the numbers and keeping track of the time and everything like that. But it was so much fun just to like participate in that I like forced my way into the next one. It was like, no, I need to like be in this. I don't know, like, again, like top moment from the season of Ethan freaking out when Jimmy took Eternals from him. That was just one of my absolute favorite moments.
Our first podcast meme.
Yeah.
It really was. Yeah.
Season 2, Ethan.
Yeah. Ethan's coming through. Our Ant-Man. Yeah. So yeah, I love that the auction draft idea. Like the movie drafts are fun, and I still want to keep doing those. Because that's a whole different kind of strategy where you get definitely what you want.
Yeah.
But the auction drafts are just like, it's chaotic, and I love it. So
Love the chaos.
if you haven't listened to it, that's something I would definitely recommend to go check that out.
For sure. So what was your favorite scene from any movie this season?
I mean, I feel like we all kind of have a couple, so I'm just going to go ahead and say both of mine, because I think we're all just going to give two. I cried during both of these for very different reasons. And they are the two movies that, were the recent releases that we covered. Number one was when we all went to go see Spider-Man No Way Home, and Andrew Garfield comes through the portal and takes off his mask. And I started tearing up. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know how much I needed to see him again. It's just like, I've said it, I'll say it again. Andrew Garfield's the best Spider-Man, Tobey's best Peter Parker, and Tom Holland is the best of both.
He will die on this hill.
I will, without a doubt. But just seeing Andrew again, like in that whole scene of like crawl on the wall, he's like, no, I'm not going to crawl on the wall. Like you can't make me do like that whole, like, I just loved it. And I wasn't ready for it. Like everyone thought it was coming or something was.
We kind of knew.
Yeah. But this is like actually Marvel did a good job of like not spoiling it necessarily.
I don't know how they did it.
I don't know. Like,
I think it was spoiled for some people. Like,
there was one trailer in Brazil that fucked up. And so that's like, then people are just like, oh, they latched onto that. Like there's a scene where all the bad guys are jumping towards Tom Holland in the trailer. And Brazil let it go for like a second too long. And it shows like, what's his name getting punched, but no one punches him, so everyone's like, there's going to be someone there, whatever. So like, whatever. Anyways, getting way too in the weeds here. But that for me, like, I got super emotional. I was like, man, I miss Andrew Garfield. Like I loved his Spider-Man so much. Tobey was my Spider-Man. Like that was.
It's also just a crazy moment, like that that something like that could happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
And I put it in my Letterboxd review. Like I will never be able to be objective about this movie. Like it's a 5-star movie, and it will be till I die. And it's like, it's not that it is a 5-star movie. It's just that I can't separate my feelings for the Spider-Man and for these guys in particular. So,
and talk about an in-theater experience. I wasn't with you guys, but I imagine you had a similar thing to me. Like, I don't think I've been at concerts that were less raucous than that theater. Like everything from.
I was moshing.
Yeah.
I was bashing skulls.
I mean, we talked about, there was a dude that was like a couple rows in front of us. Andrew takes off his mask and he's like, no fucking way. Like just like yelling, but I wasn't annoyed. I was like, yeah man, exactly. Like it was just like, yes, we are all experiencing this together.
There was like sentences of dialogue I couldn't hear in the movie, and I wasn't mad. Yeah. Because it's like the people were going bananas, shit. And it was so much fun.
When Tobey comes through and he's like, oh, it's just some guy. Like I didn't even hear him say that because like everyone's freaking out that Tobey came through. So I don't know. It's that the other one that really made me cry was in Everything Everywhere All at Once, one of the multiverses, kind of, based on In the Mood for Love. They were kind of doing that thing when Michelle Yeoh's the famous actress. And Ki Kwan says to her, like they're talking about the life they could have had. And I'm going to butcher the line, but essentially just along the lines of like, the thought of like living a life where we did nothing but like taxes and laundry together forever. Like I would have loved that. And it just like even now, just like ripped my heart apart. It's like, yeah, man, like that's like, when it comes down to it, that's what like real companionship and relationship is about. Like it's fun to do all the fun stuff, but it's like you just want someone that you are happy to do laundry and taxes with. Like that's what you need, you know, that's what you want or hope for. So to hear that verbalized in such a simplistic way was like, oh yeah, this is what it is. And it just like, man, I love that line so much.
Yeah. There was, I mean, I didn't put an Everything Everywhere scene on my list. In all honesty, like I went with what came to my head first. And then I filtered out stuff that I had already seen. So that kind of took a few things away. But while you were talking, I remembered the talking rock scene from Everything Everywhere All at Once. That scene blew me away. I mean, the scene in and of itself is great. Like the dialogue that's happening and the moment that's happening is great. But my favorite thing about that is, you know, I had a sort of a weird in theater experience. I was in Las Vegas. I was in a theater right off the strip. And that was a moment that could have so easily been ruined. Yeah. And like you could have heard, I mean, you could hear people breathing, you know, like it was dead silent. And I remember being in that moment thinking like, this movie is so good. And because it's having this effect on all these people, it's a moment that we're all sharing. And it would be so easy for one of these young kids. There was a lot of like, young folks, you know, there was a lot of youths in the theater that could have laughed or made a noise or who, you know, whatever. And it didn't happen. It was beautiful. It was great. The first scene that came to my head is the campfire scene from My Own Private Idaho. Yeah. I don't really know what to, you know, I don't have a lot of flowery things to say about it. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's where Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix are sharing a campfire at night. They're on a motorcycle trip. And it's just a really beautiful moment. There's a lot of stuff written about it on the internet you can look at that's more eloquent than what I can say. But it's the first thing that popped in my head. The second thing that popped in my head was that train ride in Spirited Away. So cool. I'm a sucker for a train, you know, like
I love trains.
And it's just, I don't know. It's just a really cool, beautiful, quiet little moment.
I think I kicked off that episode saying I was ready to get my no face tattoo. So I'm just like, that scene's so awesome and so beautiful. I'm just like, I need that. Yeah, I need it.
And I said that I filtered out movies I had seen before, but I cannot not mention Helm's Deep. Yeah. I mean, I broke the rules of an entire
Apollonia award. You know? It's
Apollonia winner, Helm's Deep.
Apollonia winner, Helm's Deep.
Helm's Deep is just the best, man. It's just the greatest. So it's gotta be in there.
Oh man, I love it. So I alluded to this earlier. So I have my favorite closing scene of a movie in Steel Magnolias, which has a bunny riding a motorcycle. This one also involves a rider. It's the opening scene of For a Few Dollars More. It's a wide pan shot of just desert, guy on a horse, gunshot, guy falls off horse.
And the best thing about it is like, that he's riding that horse for a while.
Yeah, it's a long shot.
Like we just I assumed, I shouldn't speak for both of you, but I assumed it was Clint Eastwood. I assumed that was our protagonist.
Yeah, there's no reason not to believe that.
Yeah.
It was so good.
So do we know, I guess in my head, I was assuming that person on that horse was shot by
Lee Van Cleef. Like,
the general or whatever, Lee Van Cleef. Like, because he's such a good marksman with his rifle. I don't think you can make that shot with a pistol. Like, the man with no names, he might could, but I don't know. I just like, I like that scene for a lot of reasons, but one, it's like why did we just see this other than maybe setting up the tone?
Well, it's just like, okay, here we go. Yeah. Like that's
totally
start off with a death. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a memorable scene. But I also, when we talk of elevator pitches, I always talk about a scene that's just like so bizarre. Like if you were to walk in on someone watching a movie, what's like the most insane
That's
thing?
That's a really good way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's
like just what are you watching?
Exactly. There's a scene in Scrooged where whatever the proxy of the ghost of Christmas past comes and visits Bill Murray, and he puts Bill Murray through the window of a skyscraper and is just holding him outside by the neck, and it's just like, this is the most insane thing I've ever, like when you see on the internet today where it's like, this is a scene that goes so hard. That scene goes so hard.
It really does. Especially, given the context of the time. Stuff like that. It was, It was awesome.
So that scene, like when I think of Scrooge, I will never not think of that scene.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, solid male performance from Bill Murray. Probably not my favorite of the year. Who would you say did have the best male performance this year?
I mean, I wanted to really try to pick something that I hadn't seen before, but I couldn't do it. Like, as much as like Toshiro in Seven Samurai and Throne of Blood is amazing and noteworthy, and as we talked about, I believe in Fistful of Dollars, like no one can do a Toshiro role. Like, he's the only person that can kind of do those roles. But I couldn't deny that Yojimbo like is probably my favorite performance of his. Like, it's so good. The humor he brings to it, like it's such a great performance. So like overall a base cover of just Toshiro, but as much as I wanted to do something I hadn't seen, I can't help but, Yojimbo is just like the best thing I feel I saw this year.
Yeah, agreed. Having agreed with you just now, I didn't put that down. That was my thought, but I was like, I feel like I'm going to talk about Toshiro too much, Kurosawa too much.
Impossible.
I mean, in all reality, that is my pick, but I really like Shia LaBeouf in Honey Boy. I know he's not everyone's favorite person right now. I think he might be canceled at the moment. I'm not sure.
He keeps canceling and uncanceling himself.
Yeah. He's a problematic figure in pop culture, but his performance in Honey Boy is really good. I really liked it. And also River Phoenix in My Own Private Idaho.
Yeah.
I was tossing it up between those two. If I didn't pick Toshiro, I don't know. I guess I'll just officially give it to Toshiro because that's what my heart wants to do. Okay. But I wanted to give those boys some shine. Lord knows, attractive white men need more shine in the world. So you're welcome.
Well, I'm not going to be praised by the white man right now because I got to go with one of my favorite stories this year is just the resurgence of this actor, which is insane. Like, you don't realize that you haven't seen this man for decades until you see this movie. You immediately recognize him. It's like, it's almost as if you've seen him like your whole life. Cause you have, if you watch Indiana Jones or Goonies, it's like you're familiar with this actor. Seen Indiana Jones.
True. Yeah, it's very true.
He has seen Goonies.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But I got to go with Ke Huy Quan if I'm saying that correctly. His performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once is like so good. And the character he plays is so good. And him coming back is just so wholesome. Like, he's got to be one of the most wholesome characters in any movie ever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you love it for him as an actor. Yeah. But you just love his character. And so I have to, I really hope he, gets rewarded. Yeah.
At least nominated, right?
Yeah. I mean, give the guy his flowers.
Well, piggybacking off that, we're going to move into best female performance. And this award category here directly influenced this whole season of the pod, because when it came to this award last season, we talked about it. We had like a person to choose from. Mm-hmm. I think we had two. And so we really wanted to make more of an effort to expose ourselves to different points of view and different stories in the world. And so piggybacking off of Ke Huy Quan of best male performance, I chose Michelle Yeoh. There's a lot of good stuff. I'm proud to say that we have a lot more options here.
Yeah, for sure.
But Michelle Yeoh, for lack of a better term, blew me away. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I thought that all the same things you just said about Ke Huy Quan, I thought the same about Michelle Yeoh, other than I didn't have as much experience with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that would be my pick.
Nice. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've talked about Steel Magnolias a little bit. I've shamelessly picked it and double picked it across a couple of these categories. But man, that monologue by Sally Field is just incredible. I typically don't like the type of drama where the writers know specifically how to make the audience sad and how to make the audience have a particular emotional reaction. I typically don't. But her delivery in Steel Magnolias and their buildup in that movie was just so well done. And they got what they wanted out of me.
They sure
Let's
did.
just put it that way.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, honestly, I feel like both of those are the right answers. Like, part of me, not necessarily even jokingly, but if I'm looking through the stuff we covered, so many of the little pods have answers I want to give. I want to give like Drew Barrymore for just the beginning of Scream. Like it's amazing what she pulled off. Like they got all of us. Obviously, Nev Campbell as well. I want to shout out. I can't think of her name now, but in 10 Things I Hate About You. I can't think of her name. Who's the main? She's in the Bourne movies. She's
Julia Stiles.
Julia Stiles. Yes, thank you.
That's the one.
Save the Last Dance.
Harry's older sister.
Harry's older sister. She's great. Honestly, Uma Thurman showed up for the right movie in Batman and Robin, so I think she gave a great performance. But in the spirit of something new, I do want to give it to Kim Min-hee from The Handmaiden. She played Lady Hideko. So not the actual handmaiden, but the way that movie unravels, it's just interesting to see everything from every perspective, by the time it's over. And I think she does a really good job in that performance of like maybe leading us to believe something towards the beginning and then like discovering the truth by the end of it. So I wanted to look up her name to make sure I got it correctly, but Kim Min-hee from The Handmaiden would get my pick. Yeah.
I mean, this one actually might have been the toughest category for me because there was so many strong contenders.
There's a lot of good options.
I put down Sally Fields actually first, if I'm being honest. Carrie Ann Moss is the queen, like got to shout her out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, there was a ton of good stuff to choose from here. And I like personally, again, very proud of the direction that we took season 2.
It was really good.
I'm so glad we got to see a lot of this stuff. So let's visit our Rushmore Mountain. Let's close this thing out.
These are OR scrubs.
Oh, are they?
Let's do it.
Let's pick our 4 favorite movies from season 2. Shamelessly, I'll go first because I just love talking. I just know you can't get enough of me. But no, I picked stuff that I hadn't seen before. So I think you'd be surprised to hear that I didn't pick Yojimbo, but I said that weird.
You did. Yeah.
I think you would be surprised if I didn't pick Yojimbo.
There it is.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah, I did pick Yojimbo. It's on there. Yeah. Yojimbo's on there. Everything Everywhere All at Once is on there. Rocky Horror is on there. And then The Handmaiden. Honorable mention for a few dollars more. I think it's probably my favorite of the trilogy. I'm noticing I love the second movie of trilogies.
Yeah, it's really good. When you were doing the scenes, I thought you were going to do like the hat shooting scene.
Yeah.
Because I really love that. The opening is awesome, but I love their like, and it's really drawn out and just extended and like, oh, they're just going to keep doing this. I love it. So yeah.
I do think for a few dollars more might be a little bit of recency bias. When I'm going through this, I think there's better stuff on here. Like a lot of the Miyazaki stuff, Spirited Away, I'd probably put on there, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. I have my actual list in there.
Locked in for eternity.
Yeah.
Mine, I mean, I think we all have some copies here, some duplicates. Mine is also Everything Everywhere All at Once, as well as Rocky Horror Picture Show. Speaking of Miyazaki, I threw Spirited Away on there. I loved Howl's Moving Castle. I loved Princess Mononoke, but Spirited Away was
so good.
Hands down my favorite of the round. And then although like I technically had seen it, it was new to me really, and I definitely hadn't seen the extended version. So I'm gonna go with Fellowship of the Ring. That was just like so fun to finally to remember, I guess, to finally see it and enjoy it. So Everything Everywhere, Fellowship, Rocky Horror, and Spirited Away, with an honorable mention to It's a Wonderful Life, because that was another one that kind of just like I wasn't anticipating enjoying it as much as I did.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to surprise no one that I'm picking Everything Everywhere All at Once here. Please go see that movie.
Yes.
It is, I don't care who you are or what type of movies you watch. Like, that is a movie worth seeing.
It's not what you think. Like when you explain it, I remember when I went to see it and I explained it to our friend Trisha we were staying with at the time, and Alex. And I told them it's like about multiverse stuff. And I was trying to explain it and I had to stop. And I was just like, look, it's just fucking awesome. Like, it's so much more interesting than I could possibly hope to describe it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Lord of the Rings here. I'm gonna go with Return of the King. It was funny. We were on the Two Towers episode, and like I was trying to articulate my favorite parts, and I realized that like a lot of my favorite parts were actually in Return of the King. But yeah, I love that trilogy.
Like how it would end with Linkin Park. That's your favorite part.
Yeah,
for no one.
Oh man. If you guys haven't seen, go to our Twitter, Ben cut one of the, when that meme of the 2007, or like, there's a meme. Yeah. Some of you might not be watching this until, years from now. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
So right now, a month ago, there was a meme that recut movies as if they had been made in 2007, basically somewhat clowning on the end of Transformers.
Yeah. Bumblebee, I think specifically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bumblebee. So.
Or no, yeah, Transformers.
Was it Transformers?
Yeah, anyways, yeah, you're good.
I actually didn't know where it came from, so I just learned. That's fun.
Came from Transformers, so thank you, Michael Bay.
Yeah.
But anyways, people were cutting the end of movies to cut to credits to the song
Linkin Park's What I've Done.
Right? What I've Done, yes.
Yeah.
And Ben did the best one. I can say that without any bias. He did the best one. No, but seriously. So go to our Twitter, look it up. It's famous.
Give us a follow.
Yeah,
check it out.
give us a follow, retweet it, tell your friends. No, but Return of the King's on there. So I've got Everything Everywhere All at Once, Return of the King. Spirited Away is one of my favorite movies of all time. So it has to be on that list. And then as much as Ben tried to get us to hate this movie, I ended up liking this more. So,
Your face out, Horn. I take
out.
it back. I'm not going to kill you anymore. I'm going to kill Ben.
Reverse Uno card on me, dang it.
You're gonna be Matt Damon on that planet pushing Ben.
Oh, that's right.
Anyway,
What's it like?
Do you see them?
Do you see your kids?
Yeah, man.
I love it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that movie. So for the sake of season 2 to go out with a bang, it's got to be Interstellar.
Yeah.
It's got to be. Whew. Season 2 is in the books.
Episode 100.
Episode 100. Wow.
Which, housekeeping note, I think we're going to change up our numbering format. So while this may look like it went from episode 60 something last week to episode 100, we're just going to start naming every episode just part of the same number to keep track. It'll be a lot easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't think you missed out on 30 episodes. We're just going to switch it up.
Yeah. Anything else?
Season 3 starts.
Roll it.
But seriously, thank you for all your support. Thank you for being here. If you stuck around through this whole episode, hope you've enjoyed it. We had a ton of fun. Be on the lookout. Season 3 is coming up, and we're looking for guest spots. We're looking for feedback and interaction from you all, the movie club. Honestly, like, you all are a huge part of this experience for us, and frankly, for yourselves.
We're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for you.
I mean, we kind of are, but it's morphed.
I'm not.
It morphed into a. Well, it's funny because this is actually something that you introduced to the podcast. It was a very insular experience for the three of us, but you're the one that actually brought it to my attention that this needs to be a club shared with other people. This shouldn't just be an experience just for the three of us. So it's morphed into exactly that. It's something that's important to the three of us and something we spend a lot of time on. And I don't say that to, beg for your attention, but it's just something that we really enjoy doing, and we hope you've enjoyed following along. So on behalf of my friends here at 3 Films and a Podcast, we'll see you in season 3.
Yeah.